Hi, I'm Christian Molinengo, and I wrote, produced, edited, directed, and played the therapist in The Tapes of John Stella. The Tapes of John Stella is a thriller, I guess you could call it. It's a thriller drama. It's about a man named John Stella. He's doing a project that he causes him a lot of guilt, causes him a lot of emotional baggage. And the film likes to talk in this bigger picture of a cycle of guilt and the idea that John Stella only feels guilt because the guy before him passed it on in a certain sense. I think that's the best way I can describe it concisely. The idea for the film came from an argument. It came from an argument with a friend, and I just feel like that argument really got out of hand. It just got a lot bigger than it had to. I don't know, not that a cycle of guilt came into play in that situation, but it definitely gave me the idea of it and sort of had the cogs turning to that sort of direction. The original idea for the film was much bigger. There was a lot more to talk on. Originally he had a wife. There was a lot more scenes between him and Jax where they'd talk and Jax would kind of manipulate him into this idea of the project. John is like a student as well in school. There was like a teacher character. Her name was Miss Trevors. But because of scheduling and timing, I couldn't get the shot done for the scene. And so to replace her, as she was no longer available, because of A-levels, I created the therapist character, who basically plays the same role in kind of helping John grow and kind of temper his own emotion. I mean, the crew, it was very small. The actors that I worked with were amazing. Working with Ethan and Aiden to bring the film to life was great, and they are really talented and they know how to bring my insane ideas to life. Working with Jeremy was great as well, despite it being one scene. He definitely was a great fit for that sort of ominous guy in the flashback. Did you enjoy playing the character?
Yes, I actually love playing the character, especially that bit when I flicked it off. Too sick, bro, I'm telling you.
When you saw the final film, were you happy with your scene?
Of course. And my shots I took for you in the graveyard. Looking crisp.
Was it nice working with actors like Aiden?
Of course, yeah. Tall lad, yeah. Quite good. He helped me read my lines because obviously I kept forgetting.
Do you think I'm a good director?
In some areas.
No, you're not supposed to say that.
Oh, sorry.
Would you be interested in working again in the future?
Yeah. Yeah, I would, because I loved how you directed and just had everything organised. But yeah, everything was on point. It was really good. You know, I liked it because everything, like, asked you questions, boom, you answered it for me like this. Yeah. Jeremy
was also a big help with recording some shots where it's like the therapist going back. Jeremy was a big help with that as well, and the actors were just great with keeping me in check. It gets very stressful when you're like directing, shooting, checking sound, like all of it at once, and checking your own script. It's just a lot to do for one person, so it's very easy to get to forget something or miss something. So like the actors were really helpful and were just like, should I keep the mic here? Should I oh, is that gonna be in the background? Like they were a big help with the little things that were quite easy for me to miss as I get lost in the moment and the work. Making the intro sequence probably took the longest of making the entire film. I had to go through a lot of archive footage of old news stories, and I kind of put them all together just to really put the audience in the time frame of the film.
1,784 homicides.
And then these parts where I have my own news interviewers talking about the story of John and his suicide. They were shot by me on an old 2003 camera, so it really looked like footage from the time.
Getting word of the man's name.
John Stella.
John Stella.
And then this intro card, along with the production name at the start, were both 3D rendered online. I kind of did that, so I had a lot of freedom with how it looked and the placement of everything. Ever since the incident, it's been so hard for me to sleep. While shooting the therapist shots, I was just on my own in my room, and I was trying to think how I can creatively show like the inside of a man's mind just on my own. So I went rummaging and through my house and ended up finding a projector. So I kind of toyed around with that until I got a look that I liked, a kind of spotlight kind of look.
I saw all the signs,
but I just did. For this specific scene, I used an audio effect where you can kind of hear his voice bounce around in the headphones, and I kind of liked that sort of feel where it kind of feels like you're surrounded by him and surrounded by his voice.
You understand that not...
The cassette tape moments were inspired by the documentary series Conversations with a Killer. I really felt like part of the fear of that series is like you can't see them talking, you can only hear them. It's a very disembodied feeling. So I wanted to sort of do that in my own way and tell the story in that kind of way as well.
he didn't have many friends. The only person he ever really spoke about was a man named...
And for most of the projector scenes, I kind of wanted this psychedelic look, so I actually just used old Windows music player visuals for those. I think this scene was probably not the most disappointing scene, but it definitely hurt the most because visually speaking, it's my favorite scene and it's one of the most important scenes story-wise, but the wind that day was really bad. We had external microphones, but you still can't hear a lot of the things they say because of how strong the wind is.
I'm sorry, what?
Count the fucking graves, John. This is our work. This is what you'll be contributing directly to our project.
Then cancel it.
During that line, where he says, then cancel it, you can actually hear an audio glitch.
Then cancel it.
And that's caused by the wind being so strong that despite the microphone having a windshield, the wind got into the microphone and messed it up. So a lot of the audio was just genuinely unusable.
A year prior, had seen...
For these scenes where, like, it's my character and it's all black and white and he's sort of looking through, my friend Jeremy helped me record them. He held the camera for me and he helped me get the shots. This shot here where I'm like looking at the grave, it was actually a zoom from the other side of the graveyard because we couldn't stand on the graves obviously. But yeah, that was very interesting to record.
He said how we were all in this quote cycle of guilt.
This scene as a whole was probably one of the most interesting visually, I'd say. I really wanted to experiment with the look and the style, so it is 4:3 rather than the usual 21:9 with this film, and it's a scene where it's only black and white except for green. Green is the only color that shows, and originally it was going to be yellow, so you could see the yellow of the glasses, but it just made the actor's skin look really weird because it kind of includes like the oranges and the beiges as well, so I decided green would be best as there was a lot of green around them and it really complemented the black and white quite well. Even this one specific shot was quite interesting as well because it's shot in 16:9 and then cropped down to 4:3, it was actually quite zoomed in, so we used an AI to sort of heighten the sky so we could zoom out a little bit more in post, and that worked really, really well for the shot. This whole conversation as well is where I feel like I've really found my sort of style. And I really like to play with the like symmetrical, close-up, head-on shots when they're talking.
To kill more?
Probably the most deserving of them all.
Glitch effects like that were used throughout the film, along with some film burns as well at the start. I just really felt like using effects like that really made it quite interesting, quite like fake, sort of dream feeling, like it's all a memory, it's all a story. And that's kind of what it is, you know. The therapist as a character didn't experience these things, they're just stories to him. So I really feel like they were quite a good way to help push the story along.
What of Dr. Jax?
Well, the apple may not fall far from the tree.
The blood for these shots were made with, it's just red hair dye in water, and it makes a surprisingly nice, real-looking blood. And it flows really well as well, so it's really nice to like spill on the ground and take nice close-ups of. There was actually supposed to be a scene here, and you see Dr. Jax's full suicide,
and him and John's last conversation, but because of actors changes and scheduling and like location things, the scene was cut, so I used part of the original shoot we had, which was just the blood scenes, and used that to sort of imply Jax's death instead. Where I realized what was about to happen. What's so fun about using projectors to do a shot and show a certain mindset is like using red projecting like this really helped show like the anger with the therapist and the guilt that he feels. Our last conversation. This scene was quite interesting to record because it's one of those scenes where I'm in it, so I need help shooting, and Ethan, who plays John Stella, was a great help, and he would stand behind the camera, tell me if it's focused, tell me if I'm in shot, and while there is a couple scenes where I'm a bit soft because the focus is off, for the most part, it went really, really well.
Yeah, you can say that.
I feel like the constant use of these yellow glasses and the passing them down as each character bears their own guilt was a really great way of keeping track in the scenes who's who, I feel like, and like who is at the moment the one with the guilt. And I also just had a lot of fun coming up with a motif like that and sort of the symbolism. I really feel like in future projects, this sort of use of a repeated object is something I'm going to kind of continue and use in my future projects, I think. The gift John gave me were these yellow glasses he used to wear all the time. It was Dr. Jax who gave them to him. For this scene, there's like another example of that. Everything's black and white except for one colour. And for this one, it's yellow, so you can still see the yellow of the glasses. But here, I didn't use it last time because it was kind of messing with the skin tone of my characters, but this time around I feel like it actually matches my skin tone quite well, so I kept it this way. This scene was very fun to record as I had Jeremy shooting me, and I kind of kept the whole black and white but only yellow thing, but as the scene goes on, the yellow actually fades away. And as his guilt overtakes him and he's ready to jump, all the colour just fades. I also took the chance to experiment with a point of view shot here of him looking down. And then this shot was probably the most interesting shot of the entire scene to take. I gave Jeremy a zoom camera and I went to the top of the car park and I would signal to him when I was ready for the shot. And then he would start recording from there.
So he is all the way there with my camera. And we're up here.
But as well as the visuals, the audio for this scene was so interesting to do. I looked for a song. I think the song is from about 1920s. It's very crackled. It's been very destroyed, I feel like. And that really adds to the tenseness and the weirdness of the scene. And then that sort of sound of the bassy sort of tube line coming up, which comes up every time a death happens, so you know what's about to happen. And then he takes off his ring, sort of leaving a piece of him behind. And I really feel like this was the perfect death for the character. And then as well, this shot was also 3D rendered. I just put a photo of the therapist in there as just a bit like a final confirmation, yes, he is dead.
I guess that in my guilt,
For the credit scroll, I decided I kind of wanted one more sort of tape from John, kind of him, a bit like a suicide note, but a spoken one, where he just kind of talks about how his hatred consumed him and he only felt like there was one way out and this was it. And I just kind of felt like for those listening in this moment, they'll kind of be hit by that, and then that sort of like laid back song of old Yazoo kind of coming in from the back, a song from the 1930s, it all just ties it all together, in my opinion.
The ending for the film had so much missed potential. The original version, there was like a 3D render of a man falling, but I didn't really like it because I felt like it looked quite unrealistic and it kind of risked taking away the impact of the scene. In my head, it was better to leave it as an implied death rather than have it confirmed but be a really bad render. I just felt like it was a bit more ominous if you didn't see him jump at all. I guess the film as a whole just kind of talks on like guilt and like trying to like deal with guilt and deal what you do as a person, and I feel like it's quite easy to lose yourself and like self-pity and like, oh my god, I'm such a bad person that did this terrible thing. But no, you can you know, overcome, own what you do, overcome what you do. As a filmmaker, I have learnt so much making this film. I'm a better director. I'm much better at like communicating my ideas and like what I want the actors to do, and I'm much more comfortable now with sharing my ideas. Because I remember when I first came up with the idea of the film, it was something I was like, do I want to go with this? Like, it's just a bit complex, it's just a bit much. But I decided I'll go ambitious. I'll go with the best idea I have, see how far I can get with it. And people really liked it. People said it was really interesting. It was a very experimental film, stylistically. It's just experimenting with all the styles as well was just such a great experience. I got to mess around with like projectors, and you know, one scene was 4:3. Originally the entire film was going to be 4:3, but I decided that actually 21:9 fit better. But I still liked that one specific flashback being a 4:3, so I kept it as that. But I think that's it for the commentary. I'd like to thank obviously Aiden, Ethan and Jeremy for helping me create the film and acting and helping out with all the little stuff, making sure every scene looked as good as possible. Let's thank you guys for actually watching the film and listening to me babble on about it. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the film. I'm quite happy with how it turned out. I feel like, you know, it's not perfect, but for the time I had to make it, the budget I had, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I really couldn't imagine doing anything else very different with the resources I had. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, thank you guys for listening, thank you guys for enjoying the film, and I'll see you guys next time.